And Claire are still with us. Guys, thanks very much for sticking around. Let's start on the front of the Daily Mail this time. All of the papers, of course, covering what Donald Trump had to say on his Truth Social overnight.
Yes.
Sweary, expletive-laden profanity, and the Daily Mail go with Trump drops F-bomb.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I think we all went to make sure that he hadn't been hacked. Was this actually Donald Trump, the president, tweeting this or putting it on Truth Social? Is this real? And the answer was yes, it absolutely is.
Too real.
Absolutely. But what's been amusing in return, and you probably shouldn't be amused by this, is the Iranian embassy in other countries have put out tweets on the way back sort of saying, we've lost the keys, that's why the Strait of Hormuz isn't going to be open. And the amount of trolling that is going on in return from a nation that you wouldn't suspect had that level of humour attached to it. This is what the world has become.
And unfortunately, a rabbit hole of weirdness.
Oh, absolutely, completely.
Trolling or something they call it.
Yeah, but you wouldn't expect it. A nation like Iran, you don't necessarily put the sarcastic trolling and animated clips that have been going backwards and forwards. But unfortunately, this now just makes Trump look really panicky, really desperate. And I think the Iranians are seizing upon that to say, you think you're actually in control. You're not. Your president is panicking. He's now putting demands on things, and then he's extending the timetable because he's not getting what he wants. So far from looking like a leader, I think Trump is now looking really desperate.
And I suppose, of course, the papers went to bed way before that news, just an hour or so ago, of this potential peace proposal that has been set for today to be signed before this deadline on Tuesday.
Yeah, that would perhaps provide Trump with a convenient off-ramp, wouldn't it? You know, he would say, well, my threats worked, we've now got a ceasefire, so I'm not going to blow up your power plants and your bridges, and we can all go back to sort of where we were before. But it doesn't change the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. There's no imminent suggestion that it's going to reopen, and there doesn't seem to be a plan. Certainly Trump doesn't have one. He veers from demanding it's reopened to saying, well, it doesn't matter to us because we don't get our oil from there anyway. It's up to the rest of the world, including the UK, to keep it open. So it's so many mixed messages. But this ceasefire, you have to welcome it if it happens. But then everything could turn on another Truth Social.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens when he wakes up in a couple of hours' time, whether or not he posts about that. But it's extraordinary. We're now, as we constantly are with Trump, on this ticking clock, right? We're just waiting. We've got today, and then we've got tomorrow, and then who knows where.
Well, and we were saying earlier as well, weren't we, that he doesn't even... It's kind of weird. His body clock is all over the place. He tweets in the middle of the night, and so... He might be awake already. I'm not sure what time it is in DC right now, but he's just... It's almost like he's round the clock.
There's no off switch, and I think that's the more worrying thing. There's no filter and no off switch, and this comes in the middle of the night. And we're also sitting here going, what is going to come out next? And you think that you've reached peak Trump, and he'll blow that out of the water, I think, on any given day within about 24 hours.
The first time in a long time of being a journalist, I'm a bit nervous to look at my notifications. Sometimes you're not quite sure what you're going to see.
No, and it's really worrying because of the impact that it has on us. But you do worry every single time a breaking news alert comes up. You just think, what has he done now? And you sort of have to take a deep breath and dive in.
And
we've not had that before.
We find that, I suppose, as journalists, very entertaining, and it gives us good copy, but there are real-world implications for us in this country as well. You just come in this morning, you look at the price of a litre of diesel.
The diesel prices are insane when I drove past them.
Unbelievable.
Petrol prices
they're heading for two pounds. They're heading for £2 a litre diesel. Right. So those are the real-world impacts. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's going to be a resolution.
Well, let's wait for the next 12 hours or so, because Monday is the moment when they're meant to have that agreement. We'll see what happens. All right, let's move on. There are other things that are happening in the world. Let's look at a bit of a... Well, it's kind of tangentially linked, isn't it, I guess? Reporting about David Miliband and the North Sea.
Yeah, so he is under a lot of pressure in Miliband, I think it's safe to say, and there is a clear split in the cabinet. Now, he is, as we know, completely wedded to net zero, completely opposed to fresh new licences for gas and oil exploration in the North Sea, but he's coming under more and more political pressure, because obviously the oil price is going up, and people are saying, well, hang on a minute, if you've still got oil in the North Sea, why shouldn't we be at least using it while it's still there? And I think what's interesting, the two things. One, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, she'd quite like to get her hands on the tax revenue, which would be generated. But also, in this Times story, extensively quoted is Gary Smith, who's the head of the GMB union, one of the biggest funders of the Labour Party, and, you know, a supporter of Keir Starmer, not a natural critic of Keir Starmer's leadership. And, you know, he's really gone to town here. I mean, a lot of his members are employed in the North Sea oil industry, and, you know, their jobs could be at risk as and when, you know, the exploration starts to fade away. And he says it would be shameful if a Labour government were to preside over in Aberdeen what Thatcher did to Middlesbrough in the 1980s. We need to get on with this. We're in a very vulnerable position. He says the government's approach right now is utter madness. I mean, really, really strong words. But Keir Starmer, at PMQs a couple of weeks ago, under a lot of pressure from Kemi Badenoch on it, basically said, it's not up to me, it's up to Ed Miliband.
Yeah, he said it so many times, didn't he? Anas was quoted here as well, who's obviously called for the Prime Minister to go, that he wants extraction. So the Labour Party could find themselves in quite a sticky position over this.
Yeah, they absolutely can. And I think when you're looking at energy prices being what they are, we've just spoken about fuel prices, but just general domestic energy prices, which are enormous. The general public are going to ask, if you have Jackdaw, one of the fields there, ready to go, ready to supply into the domestic market by the end of the year, why aren't you using it? Because we're in a situation at the moment where we are reliant upon oil and gas coming in.
That's the mad
from
thing, isn't it?
overseas.
We're importing
Absolutely.
gas.
So you should be able to have your own energy security in this country. But unfortunately, the Labour Party put in their manifesto that they were really wedded to net zero and to issuing no new oil and gas licences. Now, one can argue that these licences were existing for Jackdaw. They were already there, so it's something that, after the Supreme Court case, they can now be acted on. The other one is Rosebank, which is the one that is apparently a massive red line for Ed Miliband. So I wonder...
And that's the oil field, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's the oil field that we haven't tapped into, which will take longer to come on. But you can see that if there is going to be any kind of reshuffling going on in a Labour government, in a Labour cabinet, I think that Ed Miliband is now front and centre to be shuffled out of this, because he is putting the Prime Minister in a really difficult spot. If you were the Prime Minister, you want to be able to make sure that people are having that cost of living crisis dealt with. You don't need Ed Miliband in the background saying,
Starmer did try to shuffle him out the last time, and
he sat there in the corridor,
refused to go. So.
He did, and also, isn't he the most popular member of the cabinet? And there was talk
Labour members.
With Labour members, right? On the other side of this as well, because this is what always fascinates me about this story, Dale Vince, the Labour supporter, says that there's no point doing this. He said there's no economic justification, it won't bring our energy bills down, it won't give us energy security, which is basically what the government are saying as well.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, Dale Vince, as we know, is obviously very much a climate change campaigner, a supporter of the Labour Party, and obviously very influential, obviously a very strong supporter of Ed Miliband as well. So it's I think the dynamics within government over this are really fascinating.
Absolutely. Right, let's move on to another story here in the Mirror. And today, start of the financial year, the two-child benefit cap has finally lapsed. Claire?
Yeah. Now, this has to be one of the worst decisions I think the Labour government has made. This is right up there with winter fuel allowance being cut. The two-child benefit cap was one of those policies which is popular with the general public, because I think an awful lot of people are saying, why on earth are we supporting the choices of families to have more children that they can't afford? And when everybody is struggling to make ends meet, it is those people in the middle who are getting no increases in benefits because they're working, even if they're sort of relatively well paid. None of their, they don't get any help off the government, all of their bills are going up. But you see the subsidies going to those on universal credit and the two-child benefit cap being lifted. So I think this is probably one of the worst decisions. It is going to cost an awful lot of money this reversal, and where's that coming from when everybody in the middle who is not getting a wage increase is going to be paying out more and more taxes to the government to be spent in this way. So, no, I think this is an appalling.
I mean, the Prime Minister says that he's happy to have done this, always be on the side of the British people. Heard the chuckle there. We're going to come to you for the reason why you're chuckling. He says, I'll never lose sight of how restless people are for change. He's proud to be lifting 500,000 children out of poverty. You're chuckling because he had to be dragged to do this, didn't he?
Absolutely. He said explicitly before the election that Labour wouldn't be able to do it. They couldn't be able to afford it. It wasn't in their manifesto. If they're so proud to do it, why didn't they say in their manifesto, well, this is what we will do if we're elected, or at least announce it soon after? They did not do that. It's because they're under a lot of pressure from the backbenches, and they wanted to sweeten potential cuts to welfare, which have actually been ditched as well, you know, because their backbenches wouldn't allow them to cut welfare.
But he's expended an awful lot of political capital on this because he suspended the whip from several members of his own party over the decision
to vote against
that he has now U-turned upon. So you think that you can't keep doing this, and that's what the Prime Minister is not understanding, that all of these U-turns are going to have massive consequences. The general public already have lost trust in anything that politicians in general say, let alone the Prime Minister, when he's made, I think, what are we up to now, 15, 16 different
Well, there hasn't been one this week,
depending.
Claire, so...
Oh, you wait.
It is Monday.
Only Monday.
It is Monday morning at 5 to 9. A quick thought from you on this story then. Why don't we do this one in The Guardian? It's about a situation at Waitrose.
Yeah, so this is a Waitrose employee, long-standing Waitrose employee, Walker Smith. He apprehended a shoplifter who was stealing Easter eggs, was initially reprimanded by Waitrose and has subsequently lost his job. There was a disciplinary hearing and he's lost his job. Lots of anger over this. People say good for him to try and stop shoplifters. We know that shoplifting has reached epidemic proportions in this country. OK, sorry to cut you off short there. We've run out of time, but Claire, Kevin, thanks both for being with us. Stay with us. Your headlines next.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?